What did that one teacher do to you that you'll never forget? Had an art teacher who would let me stay in his classroom during lunches. Always gave me half his sandwich and other extra food because he knew I didn't eat much otherwise. My teacher did the opposite. I had too much food and always took my peanut butter sandwich. Probably because the kid next to me was allergic, but what a bitch. I was anorexic when I was in school. She took me aside after CL but and told me that if I didn't stop doing what I was doing to myself I was going to die, that my body was going to start shutting down, my organs would fail, that it would not be beautiful, and I was going to die an awful and painful death. I still catch myself slipping back into that mindset 10 years later sometimes. But I will never forget that. She saved my life. Good teacher. Had 10 minutes to spare before lunch bell, and he told us all to go jerk off, or whatever it is you do. I don't know what he wanted to say, and he apologized to us. But it was funny as hell. Probably just a funny dude who let his real personality come through too much for the job. Called my handwriting a chicken shit. I was never the same again. That's actually kind of funny. I remember one teacher called out a boy and asked him if he was writing with his hand or his foot. Poor guy. I once had a kid who had handwriting so bad that I just put all the work for his CL button line. I couldn't decipher his handwriting. So I basically said, "Duck it. T. No one writes in here anymore. E. I make sure to be the first teacher to check out a laptop cart for the semester. R." I had a geography teacher that used to be a pretty good athlete when he was younger. His specialty was the 400 meter sprint. But the last time he ran seriously was like 15 years ago, and he was now in his late 30s. One day, it was unusually hot. It was like a heat wave in early June, and geography was the last CL butt of the day, and we just had gym CL butt on top of that. T. We were asking to go easy on his CL butt as we were tired and had low concentration. As we were in the last grade of high school and thus adults. TS, we kinda could speak to the teacher like that. One of the kids got the idea to hold a race on the schoolyard road. Fastest kid in our CL but a very talented football player that was about to be pro, and he now actually is. It's vs the geography teacher ex-athlete. If the kid wins, we can go home early. RLY. Teacher agreed. Eid. Guess what? The teacher ducking wrecked him. He was wearing jeans, dress shoes and a shirt, and ducking beat the semi-professional athlete in sneakers, t-shirt and shorts. It was an unbelievable sight. The teacher was gasping for air and panting during the whole CL but afterwards. But man did he win gloriously. Y. Dude was mad quick. K. When your teacher is such a bad butt that they actually win the bets they make with their students. I failed a math test and felt super bad, so I went to him to ask if I could rewrite it or somehow improve my grade. He laughed loudly in my face in front of another teacher and just said no. I walk away holding back tears. He also shot down my answers in CL but a couple times, and it taught me not to speak up or ask for help. I still hate him. Some people are heartless. 4th grade. Ms. Hammock. I had to go to the bathroom after lunch and this bitch was playing those canoe games and wouldn't acknowledge me raising my hand. Went to her desk, told her I had to use the bathroom, and she said I have to raise my hand. So I shit my pants right there next to her. That level of authority at 9 years old is impressive. This teacher was extremely strict, hated by my class, but loved me because I was one of the few who respected her and did well in her class. When school ended, she gave me a crystal bear. Nothing too fancy or expensive, but I felt as if I was glowing leaving that classroom with bear in my hand. I still have it and will treasure it forever. Had a teacher like this at my high school. We were on the smaller side, but most of my classmates had senioritis early and acted like jerks in her class. She tried and struggled to be a good example. So while I can't remember anymore whether mine really was a bad teacher or not, thank you for giving yours the respect you felt she deserved. It was in my high school. My chemistry teacher. I was a bright student, especially in chemistry. When my grades went down, My parents only bashed me, whereas my sir understood it was due to my mental health issues and literally talked to me and calmed me down. It felt so good. I felt like somebody legit cared and understood me then. My family only cared about my grades obviously. When a teacher understands their role. Got fired for setting up an illegal Guatemalan cattle market in the school basement. I broke up with my boyfriend the night before my final, and as I was walking to see El Buto take it, my teacher seeing me, told me that I could take it the following day with his afternoon CL but without me even saying a word. He was a really great teacher. Wow. Teachers do that? Well, it was a college teacher. In my senior year, my English teacher asked me if I was manic depressive after turning in a personal essay, only for me to get diagnosed with bipolar disorder a week later. Was it something in your writing? Yeah. The paper was about a turning point in our lives. I talked about being depressed and then having a sudden realization one day thinking I was cured and feeling on top of the world. I talked about psychosis and I feel like mentioning random hallucinations at any point will cause some concern. Laugh. Freshman English teacher in college. He had a last name with 2 capital letters in it. So something like McConnor. On the top of one of my first papers I wrote McConnor, and he told me that I spelled his name incorrectly. Now obviously this confused me because the spelling was indeed correct, and it took a few minutes of back and forth confusion before he told me what I did wrong. Like a typical 18-year-old I kind of just shrugged it off. Like, who the duckers. His response was essentially, if you don't care enough about your writing to get it correct, why the hell should somebody else care enough to read it? Apostrophe. The response hit pretty close to home. Not initially of course, because I was an 18-year-old shithead. But now, 15 years later, I still think about it from time to time, and it does force me to put more effort into many of the things that I do. Interesting point from your teacher. He made me write with my right hand. They did the same to me. Nobody told me until years later, which kinda explains why I could never play golf or baseball. Is golf and baseball for left-hand people? Had the police come to the school because he had reason to believe I was smoking cigarettes and using drugs in 7th grade? No. Both of my parents smoked in the house. I didn't even know I smelled like cigarettes until the police told me why they were searching my backpack, desk and locker. WTF. What country do you live in that they'd send the police to check if a kid is smoking cigarettes? Either your law enforcement is being misused or there is no crime where you're from and they have nothing better to do. Lol. Use of tobacco products by those under 18 in the US is illegal. If you work at a school you're required by law to report it. I was bullied a lot, so I wasn't the type of girl to smile a lot. He told me I should smile more. Every time I would walk into school he'd just say my name and smile. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Apostrophe. I know this sounds stupid, but the way he said it, it wasn't out of compassion or being helpful. It had this mean undertone to it. I still have a case of resting bitch face. Every time a person tells me to smile I just feel this pit in my stomach. Mean. We're suspenders in math CL but and give all of us guys a boner. She married me. #VERYBODY. Look. This is exactly what you don't do. We were reading Macbeth out loud in CL but because apparently 17-year-olds can't read on their own. She could tell reading in front of the CL but gave me horrific trembly anxiety and that cunt still gave me like 4 characters every class. There'd be like 2 people sleeping behind me and she never bothered them. Miss S. Chandler, if you're reading this, I truly hope you have diabetes because you ruined school for me. Wasn't she trying to boost your confidence though? I mean, if I was a little nervous I could understand pushing someone out of their comfort zone, but I was visibly panicked to the point that everyone in the room could tell. I've since been diagnosed with social phobia and panic disorder. Don't play psychiatrist when you're an English teacher. She punished me for bullying. They bullied me. Brought me to a mental hospital. The best 2 weeks of training at that school. My teacher tried to keep me behind for no reason. I'm a complete goody two shoes and he gave me my first ever detention for asking my friend about what textbook page we were reading. After coming to CL Butlet following an appointment, the guy tried to make me pick bits of paper and rubber bands off the floor as he watched me do it. I walked out with zero consequences. Sounds like a perv. He knew my home life wasn't the best. He saw a bright kid but someone who struggled with just, following orders. He wrote home as I was failing and spoke more kindly about me than most had ever done. It was very nice. Senior year I was placed in a freshman typing class. Everyone else was chatty and goofed off, but I wanted to learn to type, so I really put in a lot of effort. I only had 2 classes in the morning, and the rest of the day I was a waitress. As I was pretty much on my own in my senior year, I got called into work on the day of our CL Butt final, so I went to work and missed the final. When I showed up to CL Butt next day, I apologized to the teacher for missing the final. He asked me, do you want to know the grade you got? When I replied yes. He said, I gave you an A because if you had been here, that's what you would have gotten. I never forgot that. Thank you, Mr. What? Wow, that's a different kind of teacher. My bio teacher assumed I have special needs. My home ec teacher in 7th grade refused to call me by my middle name, which I've gone by my whole life, using my first name instead. I even told her I preferred the middle name, very bold for me, and she said something like, no, I'm going to call you first name, like it was up to her, bitch. Have a seemingly intense hatred of me and kick me out of his CL Bud permanently. This was high school in 2003. I literally had to go to the guidance counselor and ask for a new teacher because I had been kicked out. I think his hatred was rooted in jealousy. He was openly gay and always talking about how hard growing up / life was in general was as a gay man. Meanwhile I was a perfectly well-adjusted openly gay kid enjoying life and having a great time. It was a pretty small town, but no one ever gave me any issues and I had plenty of friends. Even a boyfriend I took to prom. I think he just absolutely hated that. Erased parts of my answers for multiple tests to give me a 4 instead of 2. Called my mum while she was at work to tell her I'd written one of the best things he'd ever seen as a teacher. She took every phone call, no matter the time of night, while I was in rehab. If it wasn't for her being there in my lowest time, I probably would not be here today. She kicked me out of CL Bud because she told me and 2 other students to put our desks in a circle and I replied that 3 desks make a triangle, not a circle. Wasn't so much what she did to / for me as something she did with the entire class. 8th grade language arts class. She was a very cool person. Never looked at you with judgmental eyes. Treated everyone the same and with respect. And honestly, like equals to her. Anyways, the one thing that sticks out more than any other was the very first day of school. She made us all listen to a song. Didn't tell us why. Seemed kinda pointless and lame at the time. Last day of school. Played us the same song. Can't even describe how it felt. The school years always seemed to drag on and on. Could never wait for summer. But when she played the song at the end of the year, it kinda brought the whole year together. And made it seemed like you had just walked in the door for the first time last week. I wish I could remember what song it was. Smart teacher. Good memories. Punched me in the back of the head in 2nd grade for messing up a math problem. Must've messed up pretty bad lol. Or teacher was messed up. She was an angel actually. When my parents were going through a nasty divorce she would bring me over her house to help me with my homework and feed me. I think she just cared too much, and when she saw my dumb bad mistake she just lost it, haha. We are friends on Facebook now, and she always says how proud she is of me. She still shouldn't have whacked me in the head though, that's for sure. There was the pretty old economy teacher who always talked about his fishing trips, who gave me an extra point for drawing a dead Kennedy's logo on my test. Then there was a history teacher who turned out to be a pedophile, who I had a whole conversation with about fur coats, and the art teacher who was literally always pregnant, and still is according to my friends who still go to that school. Told me I was smart and could succeed. I had spent the past couple years at a private school, trying so hard to prove myself. Despite doing well academically, I didn't fit their cookie cutter mold. So I was looked down on by other students and administration. When I told the guidance counselor that I wanted to be pre-med and go to medical school after college, she pretty much told to lower my expectations because I wouldn't succeed. At the end of my college maths but me senior year of high school, I ended up in my professor's office to look at what I had missed on my final. He told me that I had done well and that I could my PhD in math if I wanted. That was not what I wanted to do. But when I told him I wanted to be pre-med, he looked at me and said, "You're going to well and that. I know you will succeed." 6 years later, and I'm halfway through my second year of medical school, and his words still ring in my mind. During the time we had online lessons, my history teacher I went to Belgium with together with a group of other WW1 enthusiasts about a year ago, helped me massively during quarantine the past few months. I talked to him in a separate Google Meet about all the things that were going on with me and my family. He said after that talk, "Hang in there buddy, I saw that he cared for me and wanted to look out for me now that we have classes again at school." He asked me if I want to grab a coffee with him someday and walk in the park with him together with his 2 years old daughter. Probably soon. Furthermore, every time we have history class, he looks to me whenever he explains about anything. And at the end of every lesson he says, "Take care, buddy, BTW. I have a furious passion for history that he is aware of, and I always can laugh and chill with him in CL but and have good convos." Gave me an undeserved A so that I would have a better GPA to present when applying to college. Sounds like he gave you the D. I can't remember what I did, but in first grade my teacher got mad at me and said, "You wanna act like a baby? Fine, come over here." She made me sit in a corner on the floor and gave me 2 little toys to play with. That must have been nice. Oh, and embarrassing. Yeah, it was embarrassing but funny. She would yell at me, "Keep playing," if I looked up to see what everyone else was doing, haha. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.